welcome back to Cornish Repair. So today we've got my wife's Wylera hair curler. This has been broken for a little while and I've not actually had a chance to get around to looking at this. And the reason that this has broken is that it's no longer taking any charge. And that is predominantly, or I'm hoping, mainly down to the micro USB port in there. As you can see, it's sort of set back and to one side of the micro USB port itself. So from what I can see, that needs replacing, and I'm going to have to take this apart. Now, there are no screws, so I've already got my little opening tool that I've got here and another little sort of plastic one to try and prise this apart. I'm hoping this won't be too difficult and I won't break it taking it apart, but here we are. It's worth giving it a go, isn't it, really? You can see here it's shifted off to one side and it's actually pushed back. Sorry for the wobble. Not entirely sure how this happened. Maybe just poor manufacturing to begin with. It basically does need replacing. We can see in here. Yeah, look at that. The actual micro USB port itself has been pushed out of its metal casing, and let's start taking this apart then. What I'm going to do is I'm going to speed up this part and I'll come back to you and hopefully you'll be able to see this as I'm taking it apart, but I think it's just going to be a little bit of brute force potentially. Whether or not just this amount, I may not need to take it apart any further. I can maybe just get these two screws out and pull this board out. We've got the two screws here. They're attaching it to the outer chassis. Oh, the whole unit, it's all coming out now. There we go, right. And we've got the heating element here and the circuit board. Now, it appears that the heating element, yes, the positive and negative of the heating element is soldered directly into this circuit board. The battery also soldered. It's most probably going to be a bit easier to remove these cables first. So I may desolder those, take them off this board, and then we can actually deal with the actual port itself. The two heating elements are exactly the same color. Just going to add a little bit of tape to them. So now I know which is the positive and which one's the negative. Let me get my solder iron. Instead of adding any flux to this, I'm just going to add some heat and hopefully these will just come straight off. Right, so that's the batteries disconnected. Okay, so here's the circuit board. It's only a little small thing. We can quite clearly see the problem with the micro USB. Actually, can I even just pull that out? Yeah, look. Now, that actually potentially has pulled some traces off. And these little capacitors are right next to where this is and where I would prefer to apply some heat to this. But the problem is that this is mounted on this side and it's going straight through, and on the other side we've got the full USB-A. So I'm going to take these capacitors off and this one here, remove this USB-A port, and hopefully also remove this one at the same time. Let's remove those capacitors first. I'm going to apply heat from the back, 3 points here. So this one here, low melt solder to the tip, easier than it currently is. There we go. There's the first one. The USB port just dropped off as I was trying to take the large one out. There we go. That is those capacitors off. Right. So as you can see on the desktop here, we've got the three capacitors, and this also dropped off. So here we have the actual innards of the micro USB. So they've come out now. So now we need to check that, because the way that that's come off, potentially the traces have ripped. Have a look. Here we go. So appears to be a trace potentially there. This looks like it's surface mounted. Looks like it's ripped here. Definitely ripped here. And this whole back part here, that's bent out. Oh yeah, now we can clearly see that that's lifted. Here. That one's lifted there. Let's bring in the hot air. See if we can remove it that way. There we go. So that's come away. Held on both sides of solder here. Whole circuit board's just coming apart. This looks like is where the back of that port attached to, and on this side as well, that's gone. I'm going to try and clean this up, see if what we can see. Looking at the bottom of the port, we can see where it's torn these back legs off and the pad that they were attached to. Remove that excess solder. Maybe do that first. A slow melt added, so hopefully removing this will be a little bit easier. I'm going to wick it off. Do I have a micro USB port that would suit this design? Okay, so I found two options of micro USB ports that I've got available to me. The original port had two little inner wings, a bit like this one here, the middle one, and they fit nicely on here in these little holes just here. These two holes here, they literally are just for these little plastic nodules to sit in. This one we don't have the actual port anymore, it's flown away somewhere, I can't see it on my desk. Oh no, I've got it. I'm tempted to go with this one because I can actually see the pins once I put it on. This one here, although it'd be quite good with the wings and they would attach out here, it'd only be the attachment point would be on the external. Whereas this one here, we've got two little wings either side that go down into the board. But there's no real attachment at the back, but we don't have an attachment at the back anymore. This one is the one I'm going to use. The only pins we actually really need to worry about is the ground pin here. This one was just tying it down onto nothing, and then we got the voltage pin here going down this line. So I need to reinstate this and just attach that one there. I'm thinking, yeah, I can put solder in that hole there and this hole here, and maybe as it was before, there was a little blob underneath, and I can reheat that up and hopefully it will reattach. Problem is there's not really anything to go on over here. Only a little bit, it can't surround it. So I am thinking whether or not I can feed solder through this. Let's remove this port. There we go. A little bit of flux here. A bit more solder on it. Okay. Oh, it's not all the way clear yet. Hopefully there's enough there to attach onto. I'm going to hold this in place with my fingers. You can see the pins coming through the board just. I'm going to apply a little bit of flux to that. That's actually going to hold that quite well, seeing as we don't have the back post anymore to hold this down. Let's just do the same on the other side. There we go. That's holding that in place. So we need to repair this trace onto this pin here. These ones don't have anything attached to them, and then this one here just goes straight onto the ground. Now that ground one I may be able to just bridge across with some solder. Most probably tear it off here because this is quite damaged here. Remove some of the conformal coating, I'll run a cable, a little wire to this pin, and then reprotect it. Solder that one onto there, bend it around, and then onto that pin. Let's clean that up, see what we got. Apply a little bit of flux, help the solder flow into place. There we go, that's that. And that's tinned on the back of that one. Trying to see, is this enamelled wire? Can't remember, I bought it so long ago. I think it's enamelled. It's enamelled. Maybe why it's not wanting to attach here. This really has become a messy repair, and I apologise for this. That looks a mess. Solder all over the port. This one is attached to this cable now. I just need to tie a tiny little bit of solder from this pin onto this ground point, and that should bridge across there. So let's just add a little bit of flux to that. Can't quite tell if there's a connection between the two of those. Yeah. We have a connection. And what about in here? So from here to there. that's good. We got a connection. This port is looking an absolute mess, but then again, the board was pretty bad when we came to it. But it's not going anywhere now. I'm just taking off the glue on this port. There we go. That's that removed, and we'll reattach this one. That's hot. That's the port attached. Let's just check those pins. Not that I feel like they're ever going to be used. They're on. The port's on. Both legs are pretty much on. Yeah, that's pretty good. Not going anywhere. Right, time for the capacitors. But I've got the Wylera back together, and it's ready to test and see whether it's going to work. So the actual port, it seems pretty clean in there now. We see this, looks a lot better now. Not too interested in the larger USB port, but the micro USB, that's actually all there, looking good. So now it's time to test it out and see whether we get anything coming on this. To be honest, I don't know what it's meant to do. Hoping for some sort of thing on that screen. There we go. And we have a battery, assume a battery charging symbol. I will leave that charge and I'll come back once I've left this charging for a little while now. 30 minutes to an hour worth of charging, and then we'll see what happens. 2 bars and the third bar flashing. It's most probably at this position and still charging because these batteries have been sat in here for quite a while. So I'm going to leave it charge even longer, but I am going to try and test this now, see whether or not this actually works, and hopefully I've put it all back together again properly. I've been told it doesn't work properly whilst it's plugged in, which apparently is normal. That's actually now showing, let's turn it around so we can see a bit better. We've now got 180 degrees Celsius. It's saying 4 battery now. And I believe this is meant to be that it's heating up. It looks like it's all working now. Warming up. Oh, yep, that's that's getting warm in there. There we go. I've been told you've got to wait. That means that the temperature's got to temperature now. And apparently we now just press this button and this should start spinning with that little motor that was inside. Oh, there we go. I have to hold it down for longer. Suppose that's curled it round. I mean, I don't use this. Little mechanism at the top. Seems like it's working. Right. The actual device now works, and yeah, that's that for this video. So thanks for watching. Hopefully catch you in the next one. see what we've got next. Thanks a lot. Cheers.